Hello, it's Bonnie Southgate here again with a little tiny video on abdominal and pelvic floor recruitment and how we should be doing it. So I want you to sit again. So I want you to be really comfortable. So sometimes even sitting for a hypermobile can be absolutely difficult to stay still. So just a sense of lengthening through the top of the head and widening your sit bones. So as you sit there, I want you to feel that you're not tucked under or slouched under. So you might need to readjust yourself, take your hands, think about widening those sit bones so that you can allow those hips to sink back in the socket, which we talked about in our last video. So we're going to start with pelvic floor recruitment, and I see two types of things going on with hypermobiles. I tend to see either incredibly weak pelvic floor where they really haven't recruited at all or properly, or they tend to be a bit held in the hips, held in the bum, held in the posterior pelvic floor. So what I want you to try and do is have some awareness yourself of whether you're holding there or whether nothing's going on. So you should be able to distinguish one from the other. So I want you to start with just an inhalation, and in order to inhale, you need to allow your pelvic floor to relax. So you have a muscle called your diaphragm, and you have your pelvic floor here. And your diaphragm is shaped like a big mushroom. As you inhale, the diaphragm the sides contract and it should flatten out. And as it flattens out, it sends pressure down through the abdominal contents that then hits the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor goes, ooh, I need to contract a bit. And then the diaphragm will come back up, sending the air out of your lungs. And this is what would happen in really nice inhalation. And this is all part of your intricate system of stability and how the core works properly. Sometimes if you're anxious or you're stressed or you've had a lot of pain, your breathing pattern changes and you end up breathing up here and you end up breathing with your neck muscles. So you'll see big muscles coming out at the neck, and that's not ideal. And the reason that's not ideal is that those muscles don't have the recoil value that the diaphragm does. So when the air is meant to come out of the lungs, there's nothing to help the air come out. So as a response, people tend to squeeze their ribs and they end up getting really tight around their rib cage and their thoracic spine. And a lot of you hypermobiles who get rib dislocations, there may be a little bit of this going on, because when you then go to rotate, the ribs should move. If everything's really jammed up and tight, then where it joins your spine in the back, it will just part from, or it will rotate. So you'll end up stuck in an odd pattern that way. So even though it can be really painful to breathe when you've got a dislocated rib, it's still quite a good exercise to try and not work into pain, but to try and get things to relax a bit. Good breathing will help get things to settle a little bit. So I want you to start, because the pelvic floor will come into this as well. I want you to start with a breath out into your ribs wide, sideways. So you're going to try and breathe sideways through your ribs. And then breathe out and just let everything relax. Now, I want you to hold your pelvic floor. And then I want you to try and breathe in. You can't, because you aren't allowing that diaphragm to come down. So you may have ended up breathing up here again. So now I want you to actively relax your pelvic floor on your inhalation. So I want you to feel like you can allow all your muscles around your buttocks, all the muscles in your pelvic floor to relax as you take your next inhale. So breathing right down through the back of the throat, deep into the bottom of the lungs. It's fine if your belly wants to move out, that's normal. Breathing in, wide into the ribs. And then breathing out. So I even found that easier to do that this time myself. So I might have had a little bit of holding going on, which isn't ideal. So I'm going to have you breathe in again, wide into your ribs, relaxing the pelvic floor. Good. Now, as I exhale, I'm going to think about my back passage, and I'm going to think about tightening the back passage and lifting the back passage up and angling it towards the front. So the back passage is angling towards the front, and this will be because of the way that the things sit internally. and then relax. And you're going to let it go when you inhale. Breathe wide into your ribs. And I want your exhale to be really slow. Blow the air out through your mouth slowly as the pelvic floor lifts up and back. And again, breathe in wide. Let it all go. Breathing out. You shouldn't be gripping your buttocks when you're trying to get your pelvic floor. If you feel any bit of your body move, then you know it's not your pelvic floor. Breathing out. Right, so that is one part of your pelvic floor. We're breaking it down into 3 sections because we have more than one muscle for the pelvic floor. It's a series of little different muscles that make up the pelvic floor. So the next bit is going to be the mid portion of the pelvic floor, and that's going to be the bit that sits in between the front and the back passage. And in this part of the pelvic floor, we're going to think about drawing straight up. This is where you have maybe heard the cue of a lift or an elevator lift coming straight up. So you're going to take a breath in, wide into your ribs again. And this time you're going to focus on that area in between the front and the back passage, and you're going to try and lift it straight up. And you're going to keep blowing that air out. I'm talking to you, so I can't be blowing the air out quite the same way. And relax. We'll do that a couple more times, and I'll do the breathing with you this time. So inhale, relaxing. Exhale to recruit, lifting straight up. Inhale, relax. Ribs are moving sideways. Exhale to lift. Excellent. So that's the mid portion of the pelvic floor. Identify with yourself, can you let it go and can you recruit it? Maybe you can't hold it for very long, and then you can be working on this. But if you can't relax it, then that's just as big a problem as not being able to recruit it. So now we're going to think about the front passage drawing towards the back passage. And so for men, when we talk about pelvic floor, if you're a male hypermobile, I want you to imagine that you're hitting a really cold pool of water. And that's that sensation that you want to be using. So you need to relax again as you inhale. Nothing is held. So everything around the hips, the bottom, your back. If you need to be supported by the back of a chair as you sit, that's absolutely fine. Take a breath in, wide into your ribs again. Breathe out, and we're going to draw the front passage towards the back passage. So that's going to feel a little bit different as you blow that air out. Front passage towards the back passage. Again, nothing should really be moving when you do this. And then relax everything. Same thing again. Breathe in through your nose and widen through the ribs on the inhale. Let the belly go, let the bum go, and then exhale slowly. Draw that front passage towards the back passage. Keep exhaling all the air out as you do that. And then relax. And one last time, take a breath in, wide into your ribs. And blow the air out and feel that front passage coming towards the back passage. No gripping in those hips or your necks. And relax. Right, we're going to move on one last time, and now we're going to try and recruit all 3 together. So if you found one section was harder than the other, then go ahead and focus maybe on that, or just try and challenge yourself a little bit more to see if you can get all 3 coming together. So it's easier, and I was told by the gynae physio who I've worked with for years that you really start that recruitment from the back and work towards the front. So you're going to breathe wide into your ribs again. And then you're going to exhale and you're going to go back, middle, front as you breathe out. And you're going to find those bits of your pelvic floor working. And then relax. And hopefully you're getting some activity going on. And again, you're going to breathe wide into your ribs. You're going to let it all go. And exhale, you're going to think about back, mid, and front. Blow the air out. And relax. Right, so before we finish today, we're going to integrate one more area that helps to start with that sort of core stability that everybody talks about needing. So the pelvic floor is really important, and then we have another muscle called the transverse abdominis, and its fibers are sideways, and it comes all the way from your back all the way to the front. You've got a line up the front of your body called the linea alba, and it ties into there. And when it contracts, it pulls that tight, and it pulls into the thoracolumbar fascia at back, and it pulls it all tight, and it helps to create a cylinder of support for your spine. So you've got the diaphragm on top, you've got the pelvic floor on the bottom, and you've got the transversus pulling it all into a nice tight cylinder. We also have a muscle called multifidus, but we'll work on that on a different day. So if we can just focus on this. So we know that the transverse abdominis is working when the belly flattens. So it's as simple as that. And you'll see in Pilates classes, they talk a lot about the belly flattening. And this is why, because that then creates a stable base for all the other muscles to work off of. So put your hands on the lower part of your belly. Now I want you to observe, is it already flat and taut? So if it is, it's a bit like the pelvic floor. It shouldn't be held all the time. It's not functional unless it can relax and contract. So we're going to start with the breathing. Now you're going to breathe into your lower belly, and you're going to let it relax. And then when you breathe out, you're going to try and flatten the belly. Use your hands for feedback. The belly should be flattening back. Now, I shouldn't be moving anything. I shouldn't be tucking my bottom under or moving my spine. It is literally about flattening my belly. Breathe in again and relax it. And then breathe out, and then you're going to flatten it. On the exhalation, you're going to draw the lower part of the belly in. Good. And relax. So again, we're looking at 3 different sections. So you've got the lower section, and then you've got the midsection around your belly button. So we need you when we start to recruit the pelvic floor and the lower belly. When we get into more exercises, we need that recruitment to start from the bottom and to work its way up. So hands are on the belly button. You're going to breathe in and let it hang out when you inhale. Breathe in. Feel like you're a child in a playground. They don't hold their bellies in. Then when you breathe out, you're going to try and flatten your belly button towards your spine without moving your spine, just pulling that belly button flat. And again, breathe in. Let it all hang out. Breathing out, feel the belly button come in and flatten it. Good. And relax. So that's the second part. So the third part is right where your ribs come, and you've still got your soft bit. So you've got the bony bits of the ribs, you've got your sternum coming down, and then you still have a soft bit there. So your transverse abdominis comes all the way up into there. And we need that not to get over tight and over grippy. And this is where I think a lot of hypermobiles end up holding for stability around the ribs, and they end up gripping the diaphragm and gripping all the rib muscles. So I want you, if you feel like your ribs expand sideways, that's going to help relax that area there. So you're going to inhale and relax it. So you should feel it widening. And then as you exhale, I want you to try and draw that bit in a little bit. And relax. So that may be, everybody will find some bits harder than others. If you're unfamiliar with them, just keep plugging away, trying to work them correctly. So breathe wide into your ribs again. As you exhale, try and flatten back. And relax. Now we're going to go right from the lower belly to the mid to the upper. When we're going to breathe, we're going to take our hands all the way here. It's really important to use your hands for feedback. When you're hypermobile, because your brain doesn't necessarily get great feedback from your muscles, and we can tend to overwork rather than underwork often. So you're going to breathe, and you're going to let everything go wide. And then when you breathe out, you're going to think about the lower belly, the mid belly, and the upper belly all flattening. So you can imagine you have little buttons, and then relax. And again, breathe wide. Breathing out, you're going to flatten the lower belly, the mid belly, and the upper belly towards your spine. And relax. Right, that's enough for now. Hopefully you found that useful and you can start to integrate that. So what we call this is core training, not core strengthening. So when you go off and you do a plank or you do abdominal exercises, that would be considered core strengthening. What we're doing now is a bit of core training so that when you do your core strengthening, you've got that underlying stability for all the other muscles to work on. I hope you found that interesting, and I will come back with more on the shoulder curl.